Today I'm going to be building a lead qualification and urgency check automation for any business or any system really that you're working with and you want to implement into. The way that the system is going to work is it's going to be passed down through a Google Forms for this example, but this Google Forms is just going to act as a contact grabbing document or information basically, much like any other kind of plumbing company. We're going to go ahead and see this random website that I've pulled up. McNatt Plumbing. It's pretty much just going to be like a quick grabbing form, same thing as this one. All websites pretty much have those nowadays. They just ask for your name, phone, or email, and then whatever other subject. And that's what we're using the Google Forms for. Obviously, you wouldn't use that, and you would just have like a webhook or a HTTP GET file that brings in that information. And once you have that information, it's going to be processed by a router and filtered based off if it's qualified or if it's not qualified. Some quick pre-disclaimers. We're going to be using plumbing company, obviously, as I showed you. And basically this company that we're working for, it only takes home inspections and services, so it's not going to work with any like companies or any corporate kind of deals. So the first filter is just going to pass it based on if it is a home quote that they're asking for, or if it's something based on residential, it'll pass them. If it's not and it's something corporate or job related, it's going to go ahead and say no, we're unfortunately not working with you guys. We're going to send them an email and just say that. Then we're going to break them down into 3 different steps, where it's going to be if they need immediate attention based on maybe like they have a broken pipe or they need something to stop leaking immediately. We're going to go ahead and send an email down to any rep that we have, and we're going to be like, hey Jared, for this example, this person is asking about this and it's an urgent request, please give them a call ASAP. And then once we do that, we're sending them a message. We're going to go ahead and create a new record in an Airtable that's going to go ahead and be right over here, and it's just going to have their name, their email, the phone number, and then whatever service they require. Obviously this is going to be the same step for kind of all of these. If they can wait, it's going to go ahead and send them an email that says like, hey, whatever your name is, we receive your information, we're going to need to do an inspection. Sends them over to an Airtable document table that's right over here, and it's just a different table on the same kind of lead capture element. So same kind of deal. If it's not urgent, we can go ahead and send them an email just telling them we need more details and to go ahead and send those out to us, and then we're going to see what it is that we can do for them and book a link afterwards. And then same kind of thing, we're gonna go ahead and create a new record. So as you can see, I've already done some error handling here. It's just gonna be ignoring stuff. In this case, I would recommend, if you're doing this for your company or if you're doing this for any kind of real business need, I would go ahead and add a step before this router after the lead is qualified. I would go ahead and add a GPT module or a AI module, anything. You can use Claude, ChatGPT, but just go ahead and route this to any type of AI and prompt it to actually check the leads, because as you can tell in the Google form when we build it, I have a very simple Google form, just basically just tests for one of 3 options, where in an actual case, it would be more like this, where you can actually message the people and say like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And in that case, it's obviously not gonna be just as simple as passing it through if it says this word, because a lot of times people will phrase things differently. So you're gonna need to understand or have a system that understands that. So you would pass it through to a GPT or any type of really language model that you would prompt to say like, hey, you're an agent for this company, I need you to qualify these leads or to urgency check these leads as I have it here, based on if they need immediate attention, if they can wait, and if they're not urgent. And then you would just give it some examples like, if a broken pipe, that's an immediate attention. Bad smell or like a weird sound might just be like, oh, can wait. But if it's not urgent, like get a quote, that's not urgent, so we're gonna go ahead and just say like it's not urgent. And then based off that, then you would add a router with these same kind of modules. For this example, I'm not doing that, just to the fact that I want to make sure that I keep this free. We're going to go ahead and keep all of this free for you guys, but if you are trying to use this for a bigger purpose, it is pretty simple to just go ahead and add another module in here Now that we know how this is going to be broken down, now that you really understand this, we're going to go ahead and start building the scenario. The first thing we're going to need to build is just going to be a lead form. So we're going to go ahead and hop from Make into Google Forms or whatever system you have. If you already have a system for this, all you have to do is use a webhook that you go ahead and implement into your system, or use an HTTP file over here, like an HTTP module. You can add one right here, and then you can go ahead and like get a file every single time that it's coming into your system. But for this video, we're gonna go ahead and create this form. As you can tell, I literally just made a basic form, opened up a form, created the title for it, just contact information, testing 1 2 3. Then you're just gonna make the name for it. It's gonna be right here. You're gonna have this as a short answer, not a paragraph. Just gonna keep this short answer because we don't really need a long answer. Same kind of deal with the email. Make these all required, and you're gonna ask for phone number. And then for this example, I went ahead and made the drop down, which is the service type. And like I said, this plumbing company, we're gonna be only working with homes. So we're only gonna be working in houses, not companies or not corporations, anything like that, just for this example. So this, as you can tell, we're gonna have 2 options only. In a real world scenario, you're gonna have multiple options. You're gonna have more than these 2 options. That's why I was saying you might need to use a GPT, large language model, just to have that understanding, because most businesses will just get a message that says like, hey, I need this, this, and this for my house, or like, I'll need this, this, and this, and they won't actually state what for. So I also have this service required box, same kind of drop down. It just has different options. This is how we're going to be breaking it down into urgency levels. So it should be pretty simple to build. I'm not really going to go over this just because it's something that you're going to have into your own business. And if you don't, it is pretty simple to build. You just go ahead and go on Google Forms. It's free. So once you have your full form created, you can go ahead and just publish it. And once you publish it, it's going to be able to get a responder link like that. And then you can just go ahead and copy this link, and you can use it for testing later. If you're doing mine, as you can see, I've already responded to this, but I can edit my responses if I'd like to. So that's going to go ahead and be the responses. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up a Airtable. So basically, you're just going to create a new workspace, and you're going to have, for this example, I just named the lead capture, and then you're going to just create 3 tables with the name value, the email value, and the phone number value. These are pretty simple to create. You just hit add or import. You can start from scratch, and then you can just name this whatever you want to name it. Let's say table 4 for this example, and it's just going to have these different fields. You can go ahead and click on them, rename them, like email, and then you can go ahead and find the same kind of, we're going to do email right here because they actually take email, so you're going to have to just do that. And then same kind of deal, you can change these to what they need to be. If you want a video on how to create or get your Airtable set up, I will do one later on, but for this example, I'm just gonna go through having all the systems and just show you actually how to build it through each module and not how to connect every API. But it should be pretty simple. You're just gonna go ahead and create a connection with it, or using a API key or token, and then you're just gonna figure out which list you want to use or which Airtable you want to connect to. So for example, this one, I have my API, my Airtable token. That's the one I'm gonna use, and then which table I want to use. And as you can see, the table 4, which we just created, and then you're just gonna plug in your values eventually. But should be pretty simple. I'm not gonna go over how to actually get your API keys. It should be really simple. You just go ahead and go in here, go into your account, and then integrations, right, as you can see here, and then you're just gonna go ahead and create a new API key, paste that down in Make, and it should be simple as that. So let's get to actually building the scenario. Now that you should have your Airtable system set up and your lead form created, we're gonna go ahead and create this as testing. I don't know, actually let's do the lead capture / qualify. So it's gonna see, you're gonna have a basic little circle right here. You're gonna add a new module. We're gonna do Google Forms for this one. I'm gonna go ahead and just do list responses. Once again, if you have a webhook or an HTTP, you would just take the actual module and change it, and you would just have a webhook or a HTTP file that would just bring in leads and do the same thing that I'm doing with this. You would just connect it to here. If you're using an HTTP file, you're gonna have to just get like the website's URL and an access token the same way everything else works. So just create a connection to it. We're gonna search for an ID form right here. I think the form is called a lead form test. You are gonna obviously use whatever form you've created. So this is just mine that I've made, obviously, to test this. And then for this example of my form, I'm just gonna use the date, I don't know, whatever date works. Today, we're gonna do today at 9 a.m. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that just to get our file started, and then we're gonna go ahead and add a router in there. I'm gonna go to flow control, go ahead and add a router, and then basically you're gonna have to add a filter right here. It should be pretty simple. Start a filter. We're gonna label this filter if qualified. That's where the leads are gonna go. And we're gonna go ahead and add another filter down here. That's just gonna say not qualified. I'm gonna go ahead and set this all up, and then afterwards we're gonna go ahead and run it, and then we're gonna see how it all works. So if the lead is qualified, we're gonna go ahead and add another router, which is gonna be our urgency check router. And if it is qualified, we're gonna go ahead and split it up into the 3 different layers. I'm gonna go ahead and add another one right there, and bam. So then now we can go ahead and add filters on each one. So for example, this filter is gonna be if it's immediate attention, because we're gonna go ahead and need that to be dealt with as soon as possible, and the person's going to get reached out to ASAP. This one's going to be it's going to be a can wait file. So we're going to go ahead and create a new filter. We're going to do it can wait. Actually, let's just do can wait. And then the last one is going to be it is not urgent. We can wait to do that later. Perfect. Now let's just go ahead and hop back down here to where it says not qualified, so we can set that one up. We're gonna go ahead and send them an email. For this one, I might not have a connection just because the email connections expire pretty quickly. Let's see. So I don't have a connection. I'm not gonna go ahead and show how to create a Google connection right now because it forces you. It is quite different from every other connection. It actually forces you to create like a business little like email for Google and all of that. Once you add a connection, you're gonna go ahead and add a recipient, and we're just gonna leave it as is for now. But here's where we're gonna go ahead and add like the subject, where it's just gonna say like, hey, we're sorry we're not able to work with you right now. We don't do corporate deals, fam. Obviously you would not say that. Oh wait, this would not go here. This would go in the content, and then in the subject it would be like, thanks for your interest, senor. We're gonna go ahead and save it real quick, and then just leave it as is. So let's go ahead and go up here. If you want, you can do this part differently, a little differently from me. I'm gonna go ahead and just use a random SMS tool, sms77.io. So basically, let me go back a few steps and explain this to you. Basically, what we're doing here is, if the person needs immediate attention, we're gonna send in a message over to someone from our team. So let's say that for this plumbing company, we have a headquarters, and they have a customer service or customer support team. What we're doing is we're sending over a message to one of the agents in the customer support team, and we're going like, hey, let's say this agent's name is once again Jared, the would blank for right now, until we create the actual, until we pass some information down. Hey Jared, blank, or the person's name, is needing urgent attention on this problem. Go ahead and put the another blank here, which is going to be the person's problem, and then we're just going to go ahead and say, hey, can you give them a call as soon as possible? So yeah, I like to just make that urgent. And then the recipient for this would be not the actual person or their phone number. This recipient would actually just be your actual agent. So typically with these websites, what you're going to actually have is you'll be able to pick your actual agent based on your website, on whatever you do it on. Like Signal, it'll just allow you to pick your own agent based on your connections. But if you don't, and if you're just using a random website, you can pretty much just create, like, use your own phone number or do whatever you want. For this example, let's just do 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0, just straight up keyboard. That's going to be our recipient right now, which is just a random mouse number, as you can tell. But yeah, and the rest of this you can kind of just leave as is. Don't really need any of this, just a message and then who you're going to send it to, which is going to be whatever your customer service rep number is. Once you do that, we can go ahead and add the last module, which is going to be a Airtable. Create a record, and what you're going to do is obviously install your connection key. Like I said, you can just hit add, find your key over here in Airtable, and then go ahead and make that. So once again, we're going to go ahead and now look for it. It's not going to be this random one. It's going to be the lead capture one that we saw, and it's going to be the only, oh well, no, we have multiple table fields here, so we're going to use the immediate attention table that we had created earlier, and then we're going to go ahead and map these based off of the answers that we'll get eventually. So we're just going to go ahead and save that for right now, and we're going to go ahead and pretty much do the same thing for all of these, but instead of sending an SMS, we're going to go ahead and send an email to the actual customer. So next step is going to be to do it for the can wait filter. So if the person can wait, then we're going to go ahead and add a Gmail. We're going to go ahead and send the person an email, and then we're going to go ahead and add a recipient. The recipient is going to end up being the email for the person, and the subject is just going to say to the person, we're going to go ahead and ask them to book an inspection with us so that we can know more about their problem. So we're going to go ahead and say, hey, whoever your name is, we need a inspection done. To know more, please book one at this link. I'm just gonna do a random link, ps://calendly. Once again, I've put that in the subject and not in the context, so we're gonna go ahead and take that off, and then the subject's gonna be like inspection needed. That's all you really need for right now. We're gonna go ahead and add an extra module, and that's just gonna be the same kind of Airtable thing. Do create a new record, and then go ahead and do the same thing. Get the right one this time, not mess that up, and then do the lead capture, and once again, same kind of table. This time we're gonna do, instead of the immediate attention, we're gonna do the can wait table. Same kind of deal. Save it real quick, and then now we're just gonna copy that over, but send a different email. So this is gonna be an email for the people that are not urgent. We're gonna go ahead and just say maybe this is for a quote, so we need more details. Let's do plumbing details needed. The contents is gonna say, hey, blank, whatever your name is, we need to know a little more about your needs to give you, let's say, a appropriate quote. Go ahead and just save that, and then we're gonna go ahead and send us some information about what you need done for your house. Maybe they want the kitchen, maybe they want the bathroom, who knows. But basically, we're gonna go ahead and just save that, and then we're gonna add another create a record. A lot of this, and especially with automation, is just repeating the same process a lot until you get really good at it. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that there again. In this step, you can go ahead and add some error handlers. So like I said, I'm not gonna go ahead and create a Gmail connection because that will take a little bit, and I don't want to see sitting here for another 20 minutes creating a connection. There's hundreds of videos on YouTube out there about it. If not, go ahead and let me know in the description, and I'll go ahead and create a video on it. It'll be probably a 5-minute video maybe, but yeah, it should be pretty simple. So We're gonna go ahead and just for right now add an error handler right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit ignore. So just ignore it if it's not present, or ignore it and just create a new record just so that we can actually see it in action without any problems. So go ahead and do that for all of them. For you, as soon as you create a connection, it's going to actually send an email to whoever you said to send an email to. So use your actual email, or use some email that you can just have for yourself while testing, just so that you can make sure that you're actually getting the information that you need. I've already tested this before, so I know that I get the information when it's not working, when it is working, and when it's urgent, not urgent, whatever. I've tested this, so I do know that it works. But either way, check yourself, because you don't want to promise someone that you can get this working and then you actually send it to them and then it just is trash and you can't actually deliver on your promise. So okay, so I went ahead and filled out a form on another contact. It's pretty much just going to be the same thing that I showed you guys at the beginning of the video. It's going to be a form such as this one. I kind of added my responses, but I went ahead and filled it out on another phone just so we have new information. We're going to go ahead and go into the automation, and we're going to go ahead and hit run once. Ignore the warnings right now, and I'm actually going to have to manually run this, because if you don't have the actual email set up, it will just not work. So you're going to have to actually set up that email if you want this to actually run. But we're just going to go ahead and run this module only. It'll take the information. Now it has some actual information. So the person's name is John. We go ahead and they required a service. I believe it was broken pipe that I put. So yep, fix a broken pipe. Their email is the best email ever, johnthebest@gmail.com, you know. And then the best phone number obviously is 09123. So we're gonna go ahead and now take that information, and what you can do is we can start filling out every single field. Yay. So we're gonna go ahead and get the email address from these answers. As you can see, do not use the grade one, because if you use the grade, it's not gonna work. So we're gonna go ahead and go into email, and we're gonna do the actual person's answers, which should be, as you can see over here, the answers. And then we're gonna go ahead and email, text answer, and it's gonna hit 1, and it's gonna be the value of the answer. So we're gonna go ahead and fill that all out. Oops, there you go. We are going to go ahead and use the answers like I said. Go ahead and email these. Here we're just going to use the emails for these ones, because we're sending an email to the actual person, not to any rep right now. Or yeah, feedback, text, answers, and then value. There you go. Save that one as well. Do the same thing for the rest. Make sure you also go all the way down through this whole system. So as you can tell, I opened up the email, then I opened up the grade, then the feedback, then I opened up the text answers, then I opened up the answers file and actually got the value. So if you just actually leave it at the answer, it just won't give you the actual value. There you go. And then finally for this one over here, we're actually done with that one, because remember that we just had the actual person's, the Jared was our representative's name. So all we have to really fill out here is just the actual person's name. So we're gonna go ahead and get text answers, and the value is John, as you can tell. Well, go. Just make sure we're gonna put that over here where it needs to be. We're gonna do John, Senior John. Just go ahead and say, yep, there you go. So we're gonna fill it out. John is in need of urgent attention for his problem, which is the service that he requires. And the service he requires is to fix his broken piping, because John is not great at keeping his pipes clean, so it's just clogged and now it broke. There you go. And then it'll send the actual message just saying, it'll replace all those with the actual values saying like, hey Jared, John is needing urgent attention on this problem, fixed broken pipe, can you please call him as soon as possible. Now that all of that is filled out, you can actually, forgot to do this in the emails, we can go ahead and just fix this little error right here. We're gonna go ahead and add the value John to Senior John's emails, just so we're not saying hello blank, we're just telling him hello John, so his name is not blank. Okay, so now you're gonna see that the value should be popping up here. So for example, it's gonna say, hey Jared, John just sent you an urgent request to fix the broken pipes. Please give him a call ASAP to get an inspection going. So obviously that's going to be your output. Now the last thing that you should have to do is go ahead and go into the Airtable, and as you can see I've pretty much filled it out already, but you should only have to go into the Airtable and then just place the values, like the name value, same way we did. I'll just go ahead and go over it real quick. You're going to ignore this one right here because that's just sending the message. You're going to go ahead and go with the name, the text answer, answers, and then the value, which is going to be John. Once you do all of that, you're going to go ahead and you can select Smart Link. Just go ahead and save that, and then repeat the same process for the next 3 modules. And that's pretty much going to be all. You're going to have your entire setup done. Obviously, once again, like I said, you're not going to be using the Google Forms. You're going to be using the actual HTTP file that calls on your website. That way you can get the actual contact information from people from a website and then pass that over here. If you are using a Google Forms, be careful just in case that your variables are not set correctly. If you don't set the variables correctly here, you might have an issue where it says, for example, hey Jared blank, or it just gives you the actual question ID number, such as, let's hit run this module, such as instead of giving you the name, it might give you this question ID. So just make sure that you're setting those variables correctly. If you're following along, you should be setting them correctly, but just in case, if you run into any issues with this, go ahead and leave a comment in the description and I'll go ahead and try to fix that for you or try to give you a solution that works. Now you can go ahead and save your automation. Once you connect your Gmail, it'll be running fine. So that should be all. And once you go ahead and hit run once, it's going to go ahead and create the entire thing. For me, obviously it will not, and it will give me an error message because I have failed to verify my connection to the Gmail. So once that's all said and done, you can go ahead and look into the Airtable and your data should be already in here. Obviously, once again, mine will not be, just because of the fact that I don't have my email plugged in, so it will not process. But there you go. And that's how you build a lead qualification and automation system. Obviously, like I said, this can be taken into even more depth. This is just a really quick and easy one. So that's going to be all for me. If you guys have any more questions, any more concerns, just go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. If you've run into any trouble with this system, go ahead and let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and see how I can help you.